Hey, it's Alan Lang with Y'all Politics here with Public Service Commissioner Brandon Presley. Welcome.
Alan, thank you for having me with you.
Appreciate it. We want to talk a little bit more about broadband. I know you've been kind of at the tip of the spear on the rural broadband effort in Mississippi, and to kind of get a little bit more data on what's involved and kind of what the legislation is planned. So just tell us a little bit about kind of what the process has been so far.
Well, you know, when we looked at this, number one, we've got a real crisis in our state with the lack of high-speed internet service, particularly in our rural areas, but believe it or not, even in our small towns and some of our larger cities. And as you know, we began looking at how do you fix this problem. Some of the answers were staring us square in the face, and so now, just across the state line in Alabama, Tombigbee Electric Cooperative in Hamilton, Alabama, has been pretty much looked at as the national model of bringing high-speed internet service to rural people. So we said, if they can do it in Alabama, why can't we do it in Mississippi? And we got a 1942 law on the books that is pretty prohibitive that rural electric cooperatives like the one in Alabama in Mississippi cannot bring high-speed internet service. It was a law written in the 40s, 1942, before anybody thought about the internet. And so one of the things to try to replicate that Alabama model and exactly what's happened in 172 co-ops in America, we've got to get the law changed in Mississippi, and that's what we're working hard on, to get that law, in some cases, repealed, amended, and to get that worked through so that we can really take the handcuffs off of our electric cooperatives that want to bring internet service and let them get to work.
So there are 25 or so electric cooperatives
26,
in the state,
right.
26, and how many of those have expressed some interest?
You know, I think there are probably half a dozen, and others that are looking at it. These numbers are going to be close. I think around 20 of them have either done or are doing economic analysis and looking at a business plan possibly, with 5, 6 or 7 that are really on the cusp of doing it. For instance, mine and where I live in Nettleton, Tombigbee Electric Cooperative, they've done theirs. They've looked at their investment. They've looked at what their projected number of customers per mile would be, and I think that they said that they would be in the operating black within 8 years and paid off in 25. And that is a future-proof system that would bring internet service to every single rural and dirt road in their territory.
Okay. Well, so you talk about an 8-year payout. I know a lot of carriers look at more like a 3-year payout. If you're doing a broadband build out in like a city, they're typically looking at about a 3-year payback. So you're looking at an 8-year
Well,
payback?
What you're looking at is not to be out of debt and making a complete profit. And the 3-year turnaround for them is a little bit different. The 8 years we're talking about here is the fact you've got to have some working capital. It's a startup business, and so it's going to take a little time. But you also have a lifetime asset there. And the proof is in the pudding, in the sense of if some of the areas were immediately profitable, then they'd already be there. And so that's the issue that we're working with.
Well, what are some of the alternatives for rural people? I mean, there's satellite internet right now. You go to Hughes or Viasat, and you can get 25 meg internet for $70-$80 a month. You can do that today. And so I guess the question recurs as to what's the math to allow an electric cooperative whose job it is to provide electrical service. They're going to have to borrow. I mean, they're nonprofits, so they're going to have to borrow that money for an 8-year payout. You know, what happens if there's a quantum shift in wireless technology or something like that, and all of a sudden they've spent hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars on this? Like, what's to protect those ratepayers, of which Public Service Commissioner? I mean, they're not regulated.
Well, I think a couple of things. First and foremost is we hear a lot about 5G today. There's something out there. You can't have 5G without fiber. You got to have it. And in many cases, I think that the industry would say this fiber is pretty much future-proof. I mean, once you've got it there, you've got it. It is the base load. It is the base load, if you will, a provider of internet service. And so if you look at, let's just talk about the industry standard within electric cooperatives that are providing internet service. Around the country, you're seeing 100 megabits upload speed, 100 megabits download speed at the pretty much average rate of $49.95 a month. Fiber to the home, internet, that is pretty much future-proof. So you've got a different type of technology, but Mississippians are in dire need of getting this service out there. So one of the things that we're looking at as part of this bill is that the electric cooperatives would form an affiliate, so it would be a separate business from the cooperative that's on a level playing field with other telecom providers. And for instance, what They charge for pole attachments, which is a big issue. They would charge themselves for pole attachments to make it a fair playing field and to allow this to be done. The real nuts and bolts of it comes down to the fact that the cooperative was formed in the 1930s and 1940s to enhance the quality of life in rural areas where nobody was going. We got that same set of facts today. I can carry to rural areas in my district where not only will existing companies tell you they're not serving, they'll tell you they're never going to serve.
Right.
And so the question becomes to us, are we content with that answer? Are we fine with people saying you'll never get a decent internet service, or can we in fact do something about it? So let me tell you what the bill that's proposed, kind of the mechanics of that. First and foremost, this bill is a door opener, not a gatekeeper. Right. It allows electric cooperatives who want to, through their board elected by local membership, their board of directors can adopt to create an affiliate to provide broadband service. Again, that's happening in 107 locations in America right now, and in every state that touches the state of Mississippi. So that board can make that decision to form an affiliate. They must form an affiliate. It's got to be a separate arm, separate set of books. They cannot take electrical revenue and subsidize on your electric bill that. They will be able to make loans or borrow loans, but not take the revenue taken in from customers to do it. So you got two components. Thirdly is they will compete on a fair playing field. If a cable company pays franchise fees in a city, this broadband affiliate will pay franchise fees in the city. They will pay pole attachments. So you've got a level playing field of a fair business climate for them to be able to do that. It's not a mandate, so no co-op is going to be mandated into doing it. It simply says for those boards of directors elected by local people that own those assets, if they want to do it, allow them to do it. It takes government out. It takes the handcuffs of government off of local people and off of local institutions. Lastly, it doesn't ask the legislature for any money. It's not an appropriation bill. It does not involve one
no bonding or anything
no bonding.
Like that.
No bonding. You simply say let local people chart the course for their local future.
Is it in the proposed legislation, and I think I've got the code here, it's 775205. Is that the one that allows?
That's pretty problematic code, and that's a code that was cited in some Supreme Court opinions years ago that really put the handcuffs on the co-ops. For instance, that does not exist anywhere else that we can find in the United States of America. Right. Mississippi's the only state, and that's why you're seeing local electric cooperatives providing world-class broadband at low cost in all areas of America because they don't have this 1942 law.
Right. And I mean, and in fairness, there have been municipal broadband networks that have failed.
Correct.
And ratepayers and or taxpayers. So I guess.
But we're not talking about a government. This is not a government owned entity. This is owned by the membership, the people who own it.
And the ratepayers, the people who are paying
with their members. But they're members. And so they vote on their board. If their board, they want them out, they can vote them out.
Okay. All right. Well, good deal. Well, and so in terms of, I mean, are there other alternatives for, and we talked a little bit about satellite internet. I mean, is that not a viable option for people in rural areas that just like people got satellite TV 15, 20 years ago? And
well, the issues you come up with, and I just put it on the table, the people that I hear from, and I think that common sense tells us this, the world we're living in is never going to get slower. It's only getting faster from the time I sat down here with you, Alan, to right now. Speeds of 25 megabits down and 3 megabits up, which is the FCC standard, is a really low ball standard. Right. It does not provide, if you will, for a great amount of being able to do downloading and streaming for education. But download's important, but today uploading is just as important. If you're pushing out content on the internet and you're an entrepreneur working from home, that's just as important. So there may be alternatives out there, and hey, if a consumer makes that choice, they get to make that choice. This bill, to be very clear about it, this bill, if passed, does not prohibit any carrier from going anywhere. If tomorrow morning some of our big telecom companies say, you know what, we're going to take high-speed fiber internet to every single household in the state of Mississippi, they can do it. Doesn't prohibit them from doing it. It just gives another option for local people who own a co-op, who are the members. They own it. It's their assets, their money. Through their board of directors, if they want to chart their own course, they can do it. And again, this is so much the model that I'm so proud this isn't a Democrat versus Republican issue. Because if you look in Alabama, in Hamilton, Alabama, back in the spring of this year, our new President Trump's Secretary of Agriculture, Sonny Perdue, came to Hamilton, Alabama. to deliver a USDA grant to their co-op, say this is how we're going to bridge the digital divide in America is going to be through this model. And I think that's pretty strong. And I think that we all come around and say, you know what, we've got to do something. The current status just ain't working. And this is a viable alternative. Again, no money, no mandate for a co-op to do it, and it doesn't stop any other provider that's in business today or would be in business the day after this bill passes from going anywhere in the state they want to go.
Will the proposed legislation allow people or allow these affiliates of electric power associations to provide telephony or other video for like TV and stuff like that? Is that
the legislation as it's written right now deals solely with broadband internet service? Okay. Solely with broadband.
Okay.
You know, one of the things I would point out is that as we look into this issue and continue to look into it, this model around the country is shifting. So as I spoke a minute ago, about 100 megabits up, 100 megabits down at $49.95 a month. Two cooperatives in the state of Tennessee just launched their business in 2018, sometime in 2018. I can't remember, all of it runs together now. In 2018, and they're offering 200 megabits up, 200 megabits down for $49.95 a month. Now, the reason I bring that up is we should not have a law on the books in this state that stifles our people from making our own decisions, to chart our own course, and to bring our own sales world-class service. If the people, you know, I likened this the other day to somebody. I said, you know, it's like you own the car, you own the wrenches, but you can't work on it yourself. Well, the people own the co-ops. That's owned by the members, and that they can chart their own course. That's freedom. That's as American as you can get. And as long as there's a level playing field where there's not a thumb on the scale for somebody else, it's a fair fight. And I think we're going to get there. And I can't say enough good things about the leadership in the legislature in both chambers to be open and willing to look at this. And I think recognizing that this issue is out there, and Mississippi is the one state in America that's got this not in the law, that's not allowing local people to make local choices to save their communities. Yeah,
but in terms of the regulation, I mean, so these entities are unregulated and I guess will remain unregulated.
So the affiliate, absolutely. So the law says, as proposed now, says that if there's existing jurisdiction in place at the day of passage, it's still there, but it does not expand jurisdiction. And the same applies. Now, cable companies are not regulated.
Right.
Okay. Other telecom providers are not generally regulated for their broadband service, although all of them, not cable necessarily because that implied, receive federal funds and are subsidized, obviously, on the federal side.
Right. And then are there federal funds available for these electric power associations?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because, you know, this is such a big topic. You tend to forget some things in there. First and foremost, in the Farm Bill that was just passed that Senator Hyde Smith worked on and Senator Wicker worked on so hard, and all of our congressmen, Republican and Democrat, to get passed. $600 million are in there now for rural broadband. We understand they don't go everywhere in the country, but it's a start, and it will help accelerate the expansion of high-speed service in Mississippi if our co-ops can apply. If this law is not changed in 2019, Alan, those dollars are off the table. We can't even ask for them. Co-ops also would be eligible for the Universal Service Fund, which is out there, Connect America Fund now, which has helped a lot of Mississippi telecom providers. For instance, AT&T in the last 10 years has gotten over $1 billion. AT&T Mississippi has gotten over $1 billion out of the Universal Service Fund, Connect America Fund. So that fund has been open for a long time to our private shareholder-owned telecom providers. It would also be open to the co-ops. And again, proof's in the pudding. If you look at the states, Alabama is not a bastion of liberalism, and Alabama's law is open, it's free market, and that's what we're shooting for here. A free market law takes the handcuffs of government off of an entity owned by the people and allow them to chart their own course.
Yeah, and just to be clear though, that I mean, you would not, I mean, there's nothing in the proposed legislation that would protect ratepayers from these affiliate entities going out and borrowing millions of dollars, and then something happens. I mean, the buck stops with the members and the ratepayers of the electric cooperatives, right?
Well, the thing about it is that number one, business plans that don't work, they're not going to get financed. I mean, that's the first thing. Right. And what's happened in other states is that you've got most of these, I think every one of them that I've seen from a cooperative model have not had the issues that cities have had and others have had. For instance, go back to Alabama. They've taken it in phases. And They did not go to phase 2 until phase 1 was economical, paying for itself, moved to phase 2, and the same thing for phase 3. You know, these boards of directors are accountable to the members, and the members own it, and we've got to allow the people to make their own decisions for local control and local provision. But again, most of the projects you've seen around the country are projects in which they take them off in bites and go forward. They're not going to get financing for a plan that doesn't work, and so this assumes a lot of those things. But again, if the local people want to make that decision, the local people have the right to make that decision, and their boards have a right to make that decision for them. The boards face election by the public, but the answer to do nothing is much more detrimental, I think, than trying to attempt something and to move forward judiciously in a manner that protects the customers, protects the ratepayers, and goes on. Incidentally, I'll throw out there, many of these electric cooperatives already have fiber optic networks in place. Many of them already have the fiber. Well, it's there to operate the electric grid. So they've already paid for it. Many of them already have it in place. And what you have in situations around Mississippi is you will have a household, many of whom will watch this video, where there's fiber optic cable coming right by their house, owned by them, because they're a member of the co-op. It's their private power company. And yet they can't drop off and bring them internet service. And that's because of this law. And so, you know, at the end of the day, we're looking at a bill that doesn't ask for money, doesn't mandate anybody to do anything, does not stop anybody that's in the business from doing anything. It just says we're taking the handcuffs of government off of rural electric cooperatives who are owned by the very people that they serve. Those people can make those decisions on a local level much better than government can make it for them. Allow the local people to chart their own course.
Sounds great.
And the accountability with it is in a board of directors that is elected by the people. In Alabama, the national model for this, first vote was 5-4. 5-4. Been unanimous ever since. It's the most popular thing they're doing, and it's a real chance for us to save rural Mississippi and to give our folks a chance. And it's I again can't say enough about the leadership and the fact that they've been open to this process and open to this project. And I think the members of the legislature know it's out there and know that this is a chance to help rural Mississippi.
Sounds great. Well, appreciate you spending some time with us. We're here with Commissioner Brandon Presley as he's in Jackson today for the MEC Capital Day talking about rural broadband. So we will catch you next time.